Alrighty everyone, so here we are. It is the last day of March of 2023. A lot of fans right now are anticipating to see exactly what The Mandalorian Chapter 22 is going to entail when it comes to, of course, what Jon and Dave's plan is for also the remaining last 3 episodes of The Mandalorian Season 3. And on top of that, we also have the Ahsoka Tano series teaser coming out next month that's really going to give you a thematic or, of course, a visual idea of what the cinematography is going to look like for that show. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, the thing about Jon Favreau is that, as you all know, this is a guy that is dedicating his life to working on Star Wars. This guy works around the clock, almost 24/7, in an attempt to really turn Star Wars around for the better. And this is basically his overall game plan, is that he is working on over a dozen Star Wars shows. He believes in keeping the George Lucas vision and philosophy intact, and he just likes to respect George at the end of the day, because let's face it, he is the true father of Star Wars. He is the guy that created it back in 1977, and it should remain as is when it comes to his philosophy. So, moving on to what's been going on with Favreau and why things may have actually took a turn for the worst for a specific Star Wars project, for a new Star Wars series, so to speak, that Jon Favreau is getting ready to step down from, officially, of course, and for good this time, and how it has a lot to do with Kathleen Kennedy. We're going to be going into every single detail about exactly what's going on with this, what kind of impact it's going to have on the production of this show, and a whole lot more. So, beyond that, with many new Star Wars shows in development, both Jon and Dave have been working as hard as they can to turn things around. Now, it's noted, however, that Jon Favreau is getting ready to quit from a Star Wars TV show already due to specific conflicts. Around 1 month ago, Jon and Dave accepted to work on both Skeleton Crew and The Acolyte to fix some parts of those shows. However, now Favreau is getting ready to step down from helping out with the Acolyte series for multiple reasons that have a lot to do with no other than Kathleen Kennedy. Now, it's noted that Favreau is preparing to step down from the show by next week and will leave it all to Dave Filoni handling the other 40% of the show. This has to do with the fact that the Acolyte has been a very toxic working environment and has been creating unneeded stress for Jon that is creatively blocking him from writing his upcoming Star Wars shows. Now, let me stop here quick. That is true, by the way. When a creator is under a lot of stress and having a lot of problems in their life, it does creatively block them from writing the necessary material that's going to give a proper story. And I think Favreau is making a great move here. This is what he should do anyways. I don't believe that even Jon and Dave's help is going to save the Acolyte series, even if it is roughly 40% of the show that they're fixing around, because let's not forget, the other 60%, roughly speaking, is in the hands of Kennedy and Leslie, and it's just not going to work. But anyways, this is where things begin to get a little bit more involved, because given that a couple of months ago, Jon and Dave were working on the Acolyte, and then they left to finish, of course, Mando Season 3, because they had to meet a deadline for that show, and now that they came back, and Jon is leaving, he's leaving it all up to Dave Filoni for the Acolyte. Now, given that Favreau is still going to be involved in patching some of the scenes for Skeleton Crew, he is just taking a shift away, stepping down from the Acolyte, because there's a lot of problems happening on the sets of the Acolyte. We'll be going over that in just a second, and exactly why it led Favreau to make this big decision to step down from the show ultimately. Now, the main source of the toxicity has to do with the fact, of course, that the overall Acolyte series has a lot of cast and crew that don't get along on the sets of the Acolyte, and it has been very hard for Jon to work with people like that are not cooperating with each other to get the job done efficiently. Now, this has led Favreau to deciding to step down, leaving it to Filoni, and that this will give Jon more time to help with Jon Watts with Skeleton Crew, and focus on his shows like Mando 4 and Ahsoka as well. Another cause for his decision came from Kathleen Kennedy herself, who recently decided that George Lucas would not be allowed on set to actually observe the filming of The Acolyte, and Favreau was deeply offended over that and wanted to respect George by leaving the set of The Acolyte. So, once again, guys, we talked about this just a couple of days ago, that George was no longer allowed on the set of The Acolyte. Kathleen Kennedy gave him the boot, basically, and said, "You're not welcome here." That's basically what really happened. And Jon Favreau was offended over that, and rightfully so. You know, I mean, like, when you look at what has happened to Kathleen Kennedy, she wouldn't have a job right now at Lucasfilm if it weren't for George Lucas, I should say. And that's just the ultimate truth. I mean, if you think about it, she would not be the head of a Lucasfilm if it weren't for George Lucas. That's just the fact there. So I think that at the very minimum, you should respect him to come on set and observe what you are creating, to at least respect his presence, which he doesn't even want that on The Acolyte. And you know what? Jon Favreau getting offended is a natural response because he's a dear friend of him, and it just makes total sense. So he's leaving it up to Dave Filoni to kind of patch things together for The Acolyte alone, and will also be working hand in hand with him on Skeleton Crew. So he's still going to be working to a degree with the Kathleen Kennedy issues. Now, Disney executives were already informed about his decision, and it is being made final for Favreau to depart from The Acolyte by next week. He reportedly got to fix around 6 whole scenes for the series in different various episodes for The Acolyte, which may or may not have a big effect on the show. It all really depends. However, Filoni will pick up where Jon left off. So now Dave is going to be taking a bigger workload on The Acolyte, but given that there's not much more filming to do, this may very well wrap up sooner rather than later. You know, they've got, the initial plan pretty much getting set in stone where they want to get this thing done filming by June, the latest. And a lot of refilming is taking place, a lot of reshoots, I should say, and stuff like that. But anyways, the other side of the story about this is that, given that Favreau had already stepped down once before from The Acolyte and came back, it kind of seems a little strange to me, but this time he is stepping down for sure. Like, this is it. This is the done deal. He's not coming back at all. He gave it a second chance. He figured, let's give somebody a second chance, or give a project a second chance, and decided that this is too toxic for him. It's really depriving him of his creative ability to write other material. So, anyways, it's very interesting to see how the production of The Acolyte is going to go. We're going to be learning more about the show, by the way, guys, at Celebration next month, which is just around the corner. We're going to be learning a little bit more about the plot, Leslie's overall vision of the show, which may very well cause an uproar from fans, because we know what Leslie has said before in the past, that this show is all about departing from George Lucas's vision to exclude anything related to Star Wars aesthetics provided by George. So anyways, guys, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Night to moon, we hear them moans again.